Okay, here we are with the dump bed build, day 1,012,000. You'll remember there's a little space behind the cab, between the cab and the bulkhead of the dump bed. You may have heard me mention in earlier videos that that was for a cabinet. The steel for the cabinet I picked up today, and we're gonna kind of tack that frame together, put the shelves in, and just get a start on that today. Won't get it finished, but probably won't even get the doors on or anything like that, but get the cabinet itself framed up and kind of get it looking like it's supposed to. Get a start on that tonight before we watch the Brewers. So let's do that. the tube for the drawbar. This is a bigger size than what you find on your pickup truck. This is a bigger size that can take a more heavy weight, and then you just slide an adapter in there like that. And then this brings it down to 2-inch, which is what everybody has on their pickup truck. But if you get a bigger drawbar, which they make for bigger weights, I think most of them are over 15 or 20,000 pounds. That'll fit in here because it's the same size as this sleeve adapter. So we put that in just in case you want to use something bigger. And you can see I torched the hole already. I'm going to slide this in here. I'm just going to stick out the front 5 inches, out the back about 3.5. And then in the back we'll tie it in with a piece of angle that'll come over to these bars. We'll tie all that together so it sits on there, and then in the front it'll also sit on a piece. We'll have where you hook your chains, we'll have some standoff gussets that'll go underneath here. As this is sticking out, we'll have the standoffs coming out, coming back to the plate, and then of course we'll put some holes in there for the chains. Okay, got the first pass done all the way around on the receiver tube for the drawbar. Just the first pass. On the back side, I already got 2 passes where I want them. So now this one's ready for its second pass. And then still got other work to do, but the drawbar tube will be done. "86 degrees in the shade today. If it's not raining, it's not 85, 90 degrees out. Okay, now we got the second pass done. That looks pretty good. So that'll be plenty strong, and like I say, it'll get gussets underneath, and it'll get tied in the back where it sticks out. So we should be good. So here's the receiver plate, and I just got done drilling this hole for the hookup, which comes from the back and it connects to the plug in the front, and I'm drilling the mounting holes now for this, so that'll sit there like that. Of course, you hook up your trailer, like that. So the harness comes from behind, from the truck, plugs into there. So that's what we're doing right now. And there's the receiver plate. So we got our 7-blade plug, pretty standard for towing. And there's the rest of the plate. There's the supports for the drawbar, for the receiver tube for the drawbar. Of course, chains and whatever else, emergency brakes, you can just clip on here. This supports the tube, plus it serves as a hook for your chains and all that, pretty heavy duty. Plate is 3/8 of an inch. And you guys saw this getting built earlier, but everything's 3/8 or 1/2 inch. Bar, 3/8 plate, reinforcement bars on the back, so should do pretty well. I've built probably about 8 or 10 of these, believe it or not, 6 or 7 for brand new trucks, and then I've replaced a couple that the plate cracked on, so this one should do just fine. So here's the connections in the back. Kind of showed you before, it was a little dark. That plug from the harness just plugs into the back of the 7-blade mount, and it just clips in the back. So I got a little light this time, you can see it a little better. And then there's other wiring harnesses in here for reverse camera and tail lights, things like that. In the back, I'm not sure how well you guys can see these wires, but I don't know if they show up on the camera very well, but essentially what you had here on the back of the cabin chassis 550 when you bought it, of course before all of this was built and put on, you just had a couple pigtails hanging out the back, basically wire harnesses that had this plug on, and they were plugged into this light, and they were further back coming off. There was 2 standoffs, one on each side of course, for the lights, which are brake, blinker, running light combination, that were just affixed to the frame. Basically just cheap lights, whatever you want to call it, that come with a cabin chassis. So I am going to use these lights. They're fine to use, but I needed to move them forward because where they were mounted, they're too far back and underneath the bed, and if you were following me and you're in an elevated vehicle like an SUV, a semi, something like that, you wouldn't even be able to see these. They would have been back here about another foot or so. So what I had to do was, because this pigtail was not long enough, you can see this flex tubing here that's left over that I pulled these wires out of. The only thing on the end of here, this is as long as the pigtail was, and then it was just this plug that plugs into the light fixture itself that was connected to the end, or it was wired seamlessly right to the end by the factory. So I had to make all those wires longer to get out here. So as you can see, I made 2 standoffs and painted them for the light to be held, and this is just self-tapping screws. Of course, I cut all this steel and then painted it, and then there's self-tapping screws right up in here that screw this standoff to the last cross member of the bed itself, which the wood deck is screwed down to. But anyway, so this is screwed up into the bottom of the bed, and I had to make this longer, so I had to add wires. So as you see, that's what I did. Still got to do the shrink tubing on here on all the joints. I left them all open so you could see them. And of course, I'm going to put them back inside some bigger flex tubing that I have, so all the wires will be together and sealed up correctly. The other thing I did, which you maybe can't see very well, I'll move the camera back a little, is installed this trio light, which I might have mentioned earlier. Those are required by DOT. So I had to do the wiring for that. And then the other thing that I have to have on the truck, which I'll show the install in a little bit here, but you have to have side markers, lighted side markers on the side of the bed itself. So not on the back, but on the rear side, so you can see from the side at night. So you have DOT reflective tape, of course, and then you have to have for a DOT inspection, you have to have a lighted side marker. So I went and bought a couple of these small ones, which I think are pretty nice. I have to drill a hole. This will sit inside the hole on the side of the bed, on the skirting on the bottom of the side of the bed over here. So you drill a hole, this will pop in there, and then there's a rubber grommet that goes around it. So it'll sit in there nice. It's a little LED light, should last a long time. I've used them before. But to me, it's better than, which I have a bunch in the drawer over there. If you've ever seen the ones that sit inside the big rubber holder, I guess, coupling, whatever you want to call it. There's like a rubber mount, you drill a big hole. They're about 3 inches. Been real common since probably the 90s. 2.5, 3 inches. You drill your hole with a hole saw, and then you mount that light in there like that, but they're quite a bit bigger. These are smaller, easier to put in, smaller hole to put in. I think they look a lot nicer, and at the same time with the LED you get a lot of light. So this will be just as bright as the old-fashioned ones that I've used on some of my other trucks, which just use a little light bulb and have a bigger reflector. So we'll just show you this here. I ran an extra power wire when I was wiring this. So when I turn the lights on, which you can see the timer went off already on this truck. This truck has a timer. When you leave the lights on for so long, it'll shut it off. I'll go reset it in a second here. But when you put the running lights on, of course, these lights come on. These are running lights, brake lights, blinker lights, excuse me. And so they're like a three-way deal. You got the trio up here. And then this is a light that'll go over, or a wire that'll go over to here. This will all get tucked up inside the frame, of course. That will light up this side marker. So let's go flip that switch and it'll come back and we'll ground it out and we'll connect the power and we'll show you how that little light lights up. You can see or not, but the running light is on over here. I just flipped that switch again. This new Ford, and I'm sure it's been a year or two or a couple since they started doing that, but I've had a lot of newer trucks and they're not as quick as the timer on this one. This timer, if you turn the running lights on, or any lights, or even turn the key in the ignition to standby position or accessory position, after about 5 minutes, the timer shuts everything off on the truck again, which I guess is good, but it doesn't last very long, and the lights go back off. I'm sure if you left the hazards on or something, it leaves those on, but for safety. But otherwise, anyway, here's our light, our wire for our side marker light that I added in there because there was nothing coming off of, an extra wire coming off of that pigtail from the factory. So I just added an extra one in. I spliced into that power wire. So we'll just light this little thing up and we'll see here. Touch of ground, and there you can see. Not such a great ground there. That one's a little better. So I'm not getting a great ground on this, but there you go. It's a little better when I hold it on there. So that is what the side marker will look like. You can see it's pretty light, bright little light for about a 1/2 inch light LED. LEDs will last a lot longer and they're a little better in the weather and long term than a bulb. So that's that. So we have to mount 2 of these, one on each side in the rear. Here's our wire. The wiring is the same on both sides of the receiver plate. There was a pigtail on each side, as I said earlier, for the lights. So had to move the lights and rewire and extend the wiring. So let's close all this up, and then we'll also have to install 2 of these. Okay, so I touched up the paint on this hole I drilled, and of course every time you touch up the paint around something you can totally see it, but I didn't want to leave that bare metal in there. So we'll put this rubber grommet in, and that holds this little side marker light. I don't think they have any marks in the grommet where it goes in specifically. I think it just goes in. There's no designated spot, I don't think, where it has to pop in. You can see my touched up paint there. I was very careful with it, and you can still see I marked it up because the paint's not dry, I don't think, totally. Anyway, it's a work truck. But there you go. There's the side markers. So that looks pretty good. Quit fussing about my paint job, but it kind of hurts my feelings when you get her right and then you mess it up again. But, oh well.